What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Kairos Pacific University podcast. I'm your host, Rita Sekali, and today I have a wonderful guest who's traveled all around the world. He has done so many incredible things in his life, and he has an incredible story to share with us, but he's also dubbed as the ambassador of Mensef. So I'm super excited to talk to you about that and to hear his wonderful story. And we have an additional guest with us today. Today, my friends, we have our guest, Mr. Eyad Salman, and his incredible mom, Miss Shema. Welcome in, you guys. Hi, how you doing today?
Good.
Good, good. How are you doing?
I am good. Thank you for being on the show with me. I'm super excited to talk to you. I know you have a testimony to share. I know you have a story to share, so I'm so incredibly thrilled to be among the listeners of this story. I want to start off though with what's going on with the Jordanian Mansaf. You have a huge account, you have a huge following. Tell me a little bit about that before we get to the serious stuff.
Yes, yes. It's been of course it's been a blessing that we have been successful just talking about one specific meal, one international meal, and very cultured Jordanian meal. And it's just been amazing. It's the whole content started with kind of my relationship with my mom and kind of grew beyond that when I started to make commentaries on Jordanian food, which is a very cultured meal called mensef. And I don't think anybody in Jordan, or anywhere around the Arab world that doesn't know this meal. And for some reason, I started to branch out to talk about that meal and talk about the culture behind it and the way it's being served, the way it's being cooked, and also through it kind of talk about the culture, the Jordanian culture, and it took a lot of liking by a lot of people, younger and older, because it's more on the comical side, and it became a success. And here we are now, the ambassador of Mensef.
I love that so much. I feel like being like Lebanese American or Jordanian American, there's a sense of belonging that you attach to like these foods or these cultural things. Like we have the Lebanese festival, you have the Jordanian festival, things like that. Where have you found in your audience that this has been the case with Mensaf, or why was it so special in that regard?
Well, if you think about Mensef, unlike any other, I mean, this is it was entered into the World Heritage, and it was one of the cultural meals. It's one of the oldest. It's about over 3,000 year old, and it's something that is attached. It's one of those meals that you eat during during a wedding, during sadness, during one guy said there should be given a Nobel Prize to this meal because it's being used for almost everything. Someone graduates, someone has a baby, it's a Friday. It's whatever celebration. Jordania is just attached to this meal as part of the culture. And when I started to do this type of commentary or that, just kind of using some comical way to speak about it and teach, it took a lot of liking because it is a famous meal and it's because it is embedded in the culture. And that's why it kind of grew leaps and bounds.
Where have you found that the Jordanian culture has infiltrated the way you think as an American or shaped the way you are as an American?
Of course, I think there are certain things culturally that you learn and that you grow up with in your own country, and I think those things never go away. And whether it's the language or the religion, or the way we do things and the way we think, have helped me to really maintain sanity while in the U.S. and in this very open culture, and there are a lot of temptations here. I think a lot of my cultural upbringings, whether it's the cultural or religious, as a Catholic, kind of stayed with me and kept me grounded. Took the best of what I know about my culture, the best of what I learned in American culture, and blended them together to really try to be successful while growing up the rest of my life here in this country.
And you've done so many incredible things, and I believe in pharmaceuticals is your industry now, but can you tell us a little bit about that journey as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been working for one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies around the world. When I came to the US, I think a couple of things that I focused on was my education, and then really kind of look into how I can get my career taken off. In regards to my education, I have completed a master's in quality assurance, and I did a master's in chemistry. My ambitions were to really become a chemist, work in a laboratory, but then I found out I cannot be put between four walls. So I kind of branched out into the engineering world, and for the past 20 years, I've been setting up operations around the world in countries like India, where I lived 4.5 years. I did also a project in Germany, Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, in Russia, in Serbia, in Algeria, in Brazil, and I'm sure I must have forgotten a couple, but it's been quite a journey in the past 20 years setting up operations. And my focus has been on cancer medication. I think what I love about what I do is that I'm able to set up operations so that I can, in other countries, especially in third world countries, so that people can afford the medication because it costs about 10 times more in the US.
Is there one of these places that really stands out to you the most, where you feel the most connected?
I think they all have in one special way. Living in India 4.5 years, it kind of grows on you. I know at the beginning, the first 6 months was quite depressing because, you don't know the culture, you don't know the people, you're trying to figure your way around. But once you figure it out and you figure out, that you can manage and that you can live there, it became, a small part of me lived there. Egypt was the same way, even in Saudi Arabia or even in Switzerland. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. I think every place took a good part of me to really love it and get accustomed to it. So I can't pinpoint a special place. I think they're all very special.
Do you have a story that comes to mind in terms of like the cancer research or the cancer operations that you were putting together that really touched your heart that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I had an incredible opportunity to meet patients. I know in the US, as someone working in operations or working in quality or setting up operations, you're not allowed to meet patients. But in Egypt or in India or other third world countries, I could actually go talk to the patients. And there was this one lady who, one of our treatments was for multiple sclerosis. And this woman basically said that she walked into the hospital and she couldn't walk. And when she was administered the medication, by the next trip, she was walking into the hospital. She wasn't being carried. And that kind of went to heart, knowing that the work that I do in Egypt can make a difference to people's lives. So I think that's one that stands out. There was another child in India who had cancer, and we had provided the medications for free to help support him because he didn't have the means to buy it. It was quite expensive. So we found a way to give him the medication, and he is now, and this was back in 2012. At the time, he was 12 years old. So you can imagine now he's a young man, still living and thriving in college, actually.
Praise be to God. You know, there's a Bible verse that comes to mind. You know how in the Bible, Christ kind of sends us out to heal the sick and to do all kinds of things as a sign of his resurrection. And I feel like when we advanced in the world of science, kind of like what you're doing, or you set up these operations, that's exactly what you're doing. And maybe it's the back end portions of it, but to
No,
me,
no,
that's
absolutely.
the image. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And God paid me back
Oh,
in so many different
I want to
ways.
know. I want to know that story. What do you mean by that? Or how does that look like for you in your life?
So, back in 2008, I went through, I wanted to lose some weight. I was over 340 pounds, and 5'6", quite heavy. I decided to embark on a journey of doing a gastric bypass surgery. Um, the gastric bypass itself At the time, it was the only option. There was no gastric sleeve. There was just the bypass. So after discussion with the doctors and after, spending a year kind of taking classes to learn a little bit about gastric bypass, I decided to jump into the surgery itself in 2008. The surgery went successful, and I left the hospital in 2008, with this dream and this ambition that I'm going to lose a lot of weight. And it did just that. I ended up losing a lot of weight. As you can see, I have not gained it back. However, in 2010, I was hit with the first complication. And the first complication was that, the way they cut the intestine, is that they cut your stomach and then they reroute it, into a different area. Where they reroute it, they make a connection. It's called the Y connection. Well, that Y connection got inflamed, and there was a tumor growing in it that it shut my stomach, caused a lot of pain. I couldn't eat. So back in 2010, I went into an emergency surgery, and they tried to open that area so that I could, end up eating. And so that surgery, I think, went well. Unfortunately, it was not laparoscopic. I had to be cut open from the middle of my stomach all the way to the bottom so they can, be able to perform that surgery. It was a very painful time in 2010 having to deal with such an invasive surgery. It, after that, I decided, after that, I thought everything was going to be okay. Well, 2 years later, 2014, I had a massive hernia. So I had to go in and kind of cut it, open it, and kind of do the work. Also in 2015, the stomach went back and shut down. And so they did a lot of testing. They went inside laparoscopically and they tried to open the stomach. That did not work very well. In 2016, things got really, really bad. So I went back into the hospital. At that time, I was living in India. And I went back to the hospital and tried to, kind of figure out what's going on. I think the first thing they looked at is that there's a tumor. It's about 8 centimeters long, 8 centimeters in diameter, and it's closing my stomach. Well, the first thought was it was cancer. So, I remember, that scene in the hospital where they're moving you from one area to another to do more, x-rays and exams, and you're walking through the hallways and you look at the lights, and the first thing that comes to mind is family, my kids, how long do I have? And then the doctor comes and says to me, you may have 3 months, so I think you should go to the US. And so at that point, yeah, it's that moment when you realize that, this is it, that, the end is near.
Can you elaborate on, I know it's like a harder thing to maybe put into words, but can you elaborate on that moment a little bit more? Where what are, I know you said you think family, things like that, but internally, how does that feel like compared to what you have today?
So at the very beginning, it was extremely painful. It was extremely painful because I didn't know if I've done enough good in this world. I didn't know if I've done enough to please, my God, to do the right things. Have I, you start to like your life flashes and you start to say, okay, where did I not do well? Where did I not do good to people? Why am I being tested? You question your faith, but at the same time you question, did you meet the requirements of your faith so that when you meet your creator, are you going to be saved? These are kind of all the things that kind of accumulate together, and at the same time you're thinking in another dimension of what's going to happen to your kids, and how are they going to grow without a father, and will they be okay, and about my parents, and are they going to be okay if their son passed away in 3 months, and then your brothers and your friends, and who do you tell and who do you not tell, and you go through this weakness of questioning your existence, and why is God doing this? So, um, but the incredible thing is that as you go through that journey and you go through a few days of it, you you don't fear death after you realize that, you know, maybe you haven't done anything wrong and maybe this is a test. And somehow there was this deep conviction that I wasn't going to die, irrespective, even if I had stage 4 cancer. There was this, you become at peace, and then you realize, okay, this is something I'm going to fight and I'm going to live. And that's it. There was no other direction. You kind of look in one direction, you say, okay, I've done everything I needed to do in life. If God gives me this opportunity, I'm going to do more good in this life. But I know I'm going to live because God is not going to let me. He's not going to forsake me. And that's kind of all of this kind of came together as one story and one thought within, I think, within the first 2 3 weeks of me realizing this. Because after 3 weeks of, this realization comes in, the doctor says to me in India, he says, I'm going to take a sample of it and I'm going to test it. And so, I go back to the hospital. He takes a piece of it and he tests it. And then 2 days later, he says, I have no clue what it is. It's not cancer, but we don't know what it is. We've never seen this. But I'm going to operate. And I said, no, thank you. It's not cancer. Now I need to go back to the US. But that was happening all while I was in India.
At that point, had you told your family? Because you said that like it was just a 3 week period. Were you able
I,
to
I didn't
communicate?
I didn't say I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything to anybody. I kind of I didn't want to scare them. I wanted to get more information, right? I didn't want to create this fear or this panic or the worry that comes with it because I'm still not convinced.
And there's the power of conviction. That's one to keep going forward, which I don't think everybody has that same drive to go forward. I feel like, and then I don't have, praise be to God, I don't have experience with any of this, but from the limited things that I've seen, not everyone feels like they want to fight through it. At least not in like a short span. So I feel like that's such a grace that you've received that. Do you, was there a part of you that was angry at God? Was there a part of you that asked why
Abs-
me?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You go through these motions, definitely when you're questioning things at the beginning. But somehow peace comes upon you that it's okay. Even if death was the fate, it was okay. You don't I didn't fear it
It's
because
amazing.
I was convinced that wasn't gonna happen. I don't know what gave me that feeling, you know, that I was convinced before even I knew the test results.
Praise be to God. I think that's the Holy Spirit, but
Yeah.
that's an incredible thing. That's an incredible thing to experience. So you come back to the US. Did they find out what it is? What did you tell your
So I
family?
came
What
I,
happened?
I came back to the US, and at that point my family knew that I had something, but it wasn't cancer. So I didn't tell them that initially that was the issue. So I came back and I went to Cedar Sinai here, and I started to do the variety of tests. They realized that I have a very rare condition called sclerosing mesenteritis. There were probably 200 cases detected, and in this type of condition they don't go away. They people treat it. It may reduce by 30 40%, but it's something you live with for the rest of your life. And it doesn't kill you. It's just a tumor that's living in the mesenteric area. It's called sclerosing mesenteritis because it's the mesenteric area has kind of scar tissue that grows and just shuts down, kind of closes your stomach. So I know the Mayo Clinic had some research on it, but they didn't have any answers. So they treated it as if it is cancer to try to reduce the tumor. They reduce it by about 40%, but that's about it. That's the maximum that happens. But what really happened later was merely a miracle. So once we figured out that we have sclerosing mesenteritis, the doctor decided to put a colostomy bag on the side of my stomach, and he opened it a little bit so that maybe I could start to eat or even drink. And then after that, I went back to India. It hasn't been treated, so I went back to India. And then in India, I was living with this colostomy bag. And then for some reason, I couldn't eat. So for 6 months, I lived with the colostomy bag and I was taking IV 3 times a week. That's the only way I could keep my body nourished. And all I could do is get up about 3 hours, 4 hours a day and go to work and then come back. And I was laying in bed the whole time. The amount of excruciating pain that I was living through was incredible. So I basically was taking a lot of, I remember moments in India when that was happening is that, I couldn't go to the bathroom. I had severe constipation. I would, I remember sending my driver to the pharmacy to get me the pain medications. You have to break the vial and then take the injection and inject yourself. Well, those things didn't work for me because the pain was way above and beyond. So the only thing that would work, like opioids or ibuprofen 800 milligram, I would take 2, 3 pills just so that I can relieve myself, so I can sleep a little bit. And then for some reason, while going through all of this, they decided to do hemorrhoid surgery for me. And they said that that's probably the problem. That's why you're having so much pain. So probably something I shouldn't have done while I was very sick and very ill and very weak. I went to the hospital in India and I had them do the surgery. Well, I've lived the next month with the most excruciating pain I don't think a human being should experience, because there was not just the pain of my stomach, but there was the other pain associated with the surgery, that now you cannot even go to the bathroom. And there was this constant bleeding that I couldn't control, and I couldn't go to I couldn't nothing could exit, and I couldn't eat. All I could do is get bloated on this IV solutions. And I remember one of the days I decided, and this is vivid in my memory, I decided to go to the bathroom, and I said, either I live or I die. Everything has to exit. So imagine I have just done a hemorrhoid surgery. I have been I remember taking the nurse in the hospital and literally by her neck and saying, "I need something to stop this pain," because I was in the hospital for 10 days after I did that surgery, and nothing could stop that pain. Nothing. I remember sitting in warm water so that I can maybe alleviate some of that pain. Nothing worked. Absolutely nothing. After taking so much opioids and taking Motrin, which even makes the constipation worse, and now I have a surgery down there. Well, I go to the bathroom with the conviction that I either everything exits or I die. At that point, there was no other solution. The doctors couldn't help. They couldn't, and the pain was excruciating. And I went to the bathroom and I remember telling my driver, I said, listen, if I die, you need to call. He was living with me in the house. He was my helper, my driver. His wife was the cleaning lady in India. And I was kind of, they were family to me. So I told him, I said, this is what I'm going to do. If anything happens, check on me in the morning. So I go to the bathroom and I remember just pushing. The pain was anything any human could experience, you couldn't experience it. There wasn't anything greater pain I've ever experienced in my life, because now I have the pain of my stomach, I have the pain of the surgery, and I remember pushing for almost 45 minutes until everything exited my stomach. And then I fainted and fell on the ground, fell in the bathroom. And all I remember is my driver picking me up from the bathroom floor, taking me to the bed, and he was literally crying. He was wondering if I died. I, you know, at that moment I said, okay, I can't stay in India. That's when that's when kind of I said, okay, I gotta leave. Well, now I can't leave because I'm so weak. My body is so weak. And so I called my boss, and my boss says, you're done. You're not staying in India. I don't even know why you went back to India. So I said, okay, let me book the ticket. Let me gain some energy in the next few days. Everything starts to come together, but energy wouldn't come. And the flight is, I remember my flight was on a Saturday or a Sunday, and 2 days before, I'm very weak, that they wanted to fly a doctor with me on the plane to bring me from India. And remember, that's a 20-hour flight, 22-hour flight. Well, the day before I fly, the most incredible energy just comes in. There was no reason. There was no explanation for where that energy came from. I was ready to fly without a doctor. And I literally looked at my driver. I said, okay, take me to the airport. I'm ready. Packed up my bags, drove straight to the airport 3 hours away. And then I flew all the way to the US. As soon as I arrived to the airport, as soon as I arrived in LAX, my brother was picking me up. That's when all my energy disappeared. And I literally was carried in a wheelchair and straight to the hospital at Cedar Sinai.
Wow.
When I got to Cedar Sinai, the doctor said, okay, we need to do something. He said that everything is shutting down. Basically, my blood counts are not looking good. I'm very weak, very thin, malnourished. They were worried about the kidneys. It's just everything was. I haven't been eating for 6 months. I haven't been functioning. I have been through a surgery that I shouldn't have taken while I was in India. But I thought it might help me kind of go to the bathroom afterwards. But I didn't know that hemorrhoid surgery would be this painful. So coming back to the airport and coming back to the hospital. Well, the doctor takes my case, presents it to about 30 doctors, and he comes back and he says, "Okay, we're going to do something. We have an attempted success rate, maybe 20 to 40%, and we're going to do it." And I said, "You know what? Do it." I had complete faith in this doctor. I was just do it. And three of the doctors that were there at the hospital with him, they said they know me because I've had so many surgeries at that hospital, and they said, we're gonna help. We're gonna help. One of them said, "I'm gonna help with the surgery for free because I like this person." So they did the surgery, and what they did is they actually took the stomach and they cut it. They cut the intestine and opened a new route for food to go. So now I have double gastric bypass. One of them has a tumor on it, which is closed. No food goes through. And then the other one for food to thrive. So I take it, and they did the surgery laparoscopically, thank God. And then everything starts to work. Food starts to pass by. I spend a day in the hospital and then I leave. Well, that night I came here to my parents' house. I couldn't sleep from the pain. It was just incredible pain. So I just had a surgery a day before, and now I'm at home with this incredible pain, and I can't deal with it. So I go to the hospital and I ask them to give me some injection to relieve the pain. Well, they give me an injection, said the doctor will come in the morning. Well, the injection doesn't work. So I said, I need the doctor now. There's no way. And then they're like, well, we can't get a hold of him. So I started to call him because he gave me his private number. And he says, okay, I'm going to call the hospital, let them get the surgery room ready. This is at 5 a.m. in the morning. They take me into surgery again. But this time they do it open. So now I had 3 open surgeries. I had several laparoscopic. I just, at that point, I'm questioning why nothing is working. So, I wake up from surgery, and of course they keep me there for 29 days at Cedar Sinai. And the doctor says to me, he says, we didn't do anything. I opened your stomach. I took your intestine out. There was something clogging your intestine, so I just pushed it with my finger from the outside, and that's it. He goes, that was causing you pain. It's some remnants from food that you might have eaten before, and it just clogged it. He goes, I had to open you up because I thought it was more severe. I thought you might have had a leak. He goes, nothing. I didn't do anything. I opened you up and then I closed you. I said, okay. So I sat in the hospital for the first 2 weeks, and I couldn't recover. My stomach doesn't recover. The wounds wouldn't close. I had a massive infection. Well, finally they decided to go with this. I forgot the name of it, but they put they put like a wire all the way to the heart, and they feed you this solution. It's a protein solution, um, to see if you get stronger. And that's based on my suggestion. I said, this, I did this once before. It gave me a lot of energy. Maybe this will heal me and give me all the nutrients I need because I'm not eating still. And within a couple of weeks, I was back to normal, walking, eating. Everything was okay. Got out of the hospital and never went back. The surgery was successful. Miracle is that, so the first miracle is the surgery is successful. The second one is that for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 months, the doctor says, I need you to do, we still have a tumor that we need to treat. I need you to come back to the hospital and we need to do a test. So they tested, and he says, I'm going to try to give you some treatments for it. But let me see what the results look like. So for about 3, 4 weeks, he wouldn't call me to give me the results. And so I called and I said, listen, it's been 3 weeks. I mean, the results should have come out yesterday. And so he calls me, and he says, listen, I can't explain what I see, but I'm going to send you the report. And the report, the first statement says, the mass that was discovered back in 2010 must have been surgically removed. It no longer exists. So the doctor says, he says, come to my office. Let's talk about it. So I go to his office and he looks at me. He says, I can't explain it. I took it to about 30 radiologists. They can't explain it. We don't know why the tumor disappeared. Sclerosing mesenteritis is not something that disappears. It's a true miracle. Somebody must have been praying for you. And I said, you know what? Almost everybody on the planet was praying for me because they knew what I was going through, irrespective of religion. But yeah, my mom prayed, my dad prayed, my friends from all denominations were praying, all religions, people that knew me, whether they were Muslim or Buddhist or whatever they are, the power of prayer is incredible, right? But knowing that, God was on my side at that moment, I couldn't believe it. It disappeared. And that's the second miracle. And that's the book that I wrote to really talk about this journey. I wanted to call it The Two Miracles. I'm still fighting with the editor. She wants to call it something else, but um, it's a yeah, it's a story. It's an incredible story.
It's I have so many questions, and so yet I cannot formulate a single one. Thank you for sharing first and foremost. This is such a beautiful human raw story. You know, God is it just has God's writings all over it. And but what's so incredible to me is that when I met you, I would have never known, right? And I think people on Instagram or TikTok and the people who see you on social media, they would never know if you had not shared the story with them. And it just reminds me, and I know I'm bringing this back to Christ for a little bit, but it reminds me of the little family in Nazareth that nobody knew that Christ is who he is, right? It's just a
Yeah.
mother, a father, and a child hiding in the ordinary. And to me, it's just one of those incredible things where Christ's work or God's work is all around us and we just don't see it. But he's literally
Absolutely.
hiding in every story that's around us. So thank you so much for that. I don't know if Auntie Shema wants to say anything, or how would you like to say anything, Auntie Shema?
Her English is somewhat limited,
Is not so great.
but she is my rock, and she is probably the person that prayed to me the most. She had a shrine for me of prayers, as any mother would do for her son. Yeah, she was. I think you know my relationship with her beyond just a mother and a son, friendship, but she also has been my rock.
God bless. May God keep you both, together. One of the things that you mentioned is this very deep pain that you felt, this excruciating pain that you felt. During those moments of pain, how was your relationship with God? Was there a conversation with him?
Constant. Yeah, there was constant conversation, but there was constant conviction that I was going to come out. I don't know why. I don't know why I had that feeling, that comfort, irrespective of how bad the pain was, that I was going to come out of it. There was this, and even if I didn't, I was at peace, right? But there was this thing from God that gave me peace, knowing that everything's going to be okay. Somehow everything's going to, it's not my time. I've always felt that it wasn't my time. Maybe I was fooling myself, but I don't, that conviction was so strong that it wasn't, right? You knew that things were going to be okay. There was constant discussion, prayer. You know, I didn't question at that point, right? There was no questioning, why am I going through this? There was, please help me go through it.
Mm.
That conversation changed.
How are these two things different internally, if you could articulate that?
Well, when I first heard about things, I was questioning, why me, and what have I done, and is there really a God? And if there is one, why is he doing this to me and my kids? Why is he putting me through this pain? What have I done to deserve this? Right? To going, okay, God, I know I'm going through it. Help me. I know I'm going to go through it, but can you reduce that pain a little bit? Can you help me with that pain? Can you ease my suffering? Right? There was that prayer, that constant prayer of asking for help and support and forgiveness for anything that I've done, that I don't remember I've done anything that was so awful that I deserved this. But, and if you're testing me, when is this test going to end? It took a long time for this test to end, because it's almost 7 years dealing with it, or 6 years dealing with it. Um, but yeah, the conversation completely changed to asking for help and support, and if I didn't, I was convicted. I was convinced that maybe it's my time and it's okay. It's completely okay. That death is not something to fear, as long as you know you haven't done anything wrong.
And I think with Christ, it's such a beautiful experience. There's a saint. Her name is Saint Therese of, and she's French. Anyways, in her writing, she write in her memoirs. There's a part where she starts coughing. Starts coughing blood, and she gets super excited to die. And I remember reading this. I was like 21, maybe. I'm like, this girl is nuts. Like, are you excited? What is this? Right? But as I grew closer in my relationship to God, it's almost that what you're describing. It's that moment where you're like, death is not scary. And
Yeah,
you may not desire it now, right? We want to experience life, we want to experience it to the fullest, but there's a sense of this, it makes sense. It's a good
yeah.
thing. It's something that, because you know where you're going, it makes going to the destination a lot easier. And so I'm happy you were able to experience that. Is there a difference between the man you were before the surgery and the man you are today?
Absolutely. 100%. As a person, you know, I think social media came as a blessing, because it was not expected. But through it, my personality kind of flourished, and my need to help and support others became evident through my content. And I think of it as my calling, is that I should support others. I should help others who are in need, whether it was supporting Gaza and people who are in need in Gaza, supporting people who were, during COVID. I remember doing a lot of funds to help people, whether they were in India or in Jordan or in Egypt or in some of the countries that I've visited. I've sent some support. I felt it was my calling to do something beyond the things that I can do. There's also a lot that I can do myself in terms of my own financial situation to help. And I did exhaust that to the limit, but then I start to call for people for support. And with social media, I'm able to use that as a conduit to help and support and provide do good in the world, as opposed to as you, I don't know if you've seen my content, but it's extremely clean. There's nothing that's violent. Kids of all ages can watch it, because I think it's my calling to teach goodness, relationship with a mother, and respect of a father and a mother, and also to teach that you need to help others, irrespective of who they are, another human being, irrespective of their religion. If they need help, you need to help them. And I've done it through, I mean, Gaza was kind of my starting story. And now kind of going through a lot of the people who are poor, they need help, whether it's in Jordan or in Syria or in Palestine, to see how I can push their content so they can become successful. And I was able to bring, I was able to take people from, having 50,000 followers to having 1 million followers by constantly pushing their content so that people get to know them and they can have a better life. And that just moved the needle. If I can move the needle on a 1,000 people, which I've done in the past 3, 4 years, the skies are the limit in the future, because people are starting to notice that there is goodness that's going to come out of this. And it's not just purely about content, fame, or any of it.
It's God bless you. God bless you out of everything that you just said. That is what I think social media should be used for. I know, as in everything, there's always the good and the bad in it, but it matters how we choose to use it. And I think you're choosing it very
Absolutely.
wisely. Praise be to God for your work and for what you're doing, and may you continue to do that. In the spirit
Thank you.
of helping others, those who are listening today, how would you call them to, or invoke them to help? Where can they go? How can they help you with your mission as well?
Well, I mean, there are many different ways. Sharing the content will help tremendously, because it will reach more people to kind of reach out to me and say, okay, I need support, I need help, I need you to put this, or I need you to, this person needs help. Another thing is through donations. I have a GoFundMe. I haven't been pushing it because it's teetering between a lot of the funds that came through to me in the past 3, 4 years has been through private people that just heard the word and they start to send money, and I can distribute it to whoever needs it. But the GoFundMe, I'm trying not to push it too hard, because a lot of people will start to say, it's the negative things that come out of that. Oh, he's taking the money, or what is he doing with the money, or we don't know where this money went. And I urge people to go through that GoFundMe. There is not a penny that stays with me. It's not something I need. I'm fortunate to have a great job, and no matter how much you donate, it will never tempt me, because it's not what I'm going to do. And if God put me in this position, I'm going to use it correctly. um, but also reach out, share the content, allow other people to see that there's a potential for them to be helped. I can't help everybody. There are thousands and thousands of people that ask for support every day. I'm only myself. But also, how can we create agents like me who become successful because of what I've tried to help them with, so they can help others? That's how we grow this. It's not by me alone, it's by also allowing others who became successful as a result of my support to support others. That's what I want. I want the other people who are successful help others.
I love that so much. There is a sense of belonging that I think everyone longs to have. And when we find communities and when we build communities of service, of charity, of charitable love, right? I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. When we allow that reciprocity to exist in our lives and we stop looking at ourselves just as the center and allow others, one, to serve others, and also to create a spirit of serving in others as well, I think the entire world will change. And if not the entire world, then at least the world around that person. And I'm sure that
Absolutely.
you've impacted not just the people that are far away, but your daughters as well. How, I
Absolutely.
know very briefly, but how have they been impacted by all of this?
Well, I mean, thank God my daughters are, you know, they read the Bible every day and they write their own journals and they know that doing good in the world is the right thing to do. And they see it through my content and they appreciate the fact that I am able to do that. And I think that's impacted them positively, and that's hence why they are connected to Christ and to reading their Bible and to going to church and be involved as part of that community.
That's amazing. I remember you telling me they live really close by here, and sometimes they attend
Yeah.
the same church I do, so it's really
Yes,
exciting. I'd
yes.
love to meet them soon.
Yeah.
Is there any final words that you'd like to share with our audience and your audience today? Anyone who's listening comes across this content.
Well, I think, have faith. Just have faith that God is with you. That no matter how bad or how complicated things are, that if you lean on Him, He's going to make those miracles happen. And be good to people, be good to the world, and it's not by just donating or by asking for people to donate, but being good by sometimes a kind word will make a difference in someone's world, in someone's life. Just do what you can do at your capacity to spend some of your time to help others
I love that
and
so
take care
much.
of your families, take care of your mom and dad.
Love the people around you. It's
Yeah.
so profound. If people want to find you on social media, where can they find you?
Well, it's Safir El Mensaf
We'll put
official.
I love that. We'll
Yeah,
put it somewhere so that people can actually see
okay.
how it's spelled, and so it'll be good.
Yeah.
And for those of you guys who are listening, Kairos Pacific University offers a tremendous amount of programs that are just wonderful, and it is an extremely affordable institution. It's all fully online, and it is just a wonderful place to be. If you're looking to further your education at a very low cost, check out Kairos Pacific University. As for me, I'll be with you guys next week. You can find me at The Word with Rita. Until then, have a blessed day and may God always be with you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.